takes the stand. The Attorney General testified yesterday before the House Judiciary Committee. The room got heated as the questioning became contentious at times as Republicans hammered away at the nation's top law enforcement official on a host of politically charged cases. All happening as the GOP-controlled House moves toward impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden.
And what exactly went down, and was the hearing a victory for the AG or the GOP? Bob Barr, one of the House managers during the Clinton impeachment, and legal eagle Alan Dershowitz will be here with analysis.
And staying on Capitol Hill, as a government shutdown looms and the national debt has now surpassed $33 trillion, Senator Joni Ernst and Congressman Andy Biggs join us with insight from inside the Capitol. And oh yeah, there's still that thing of Merrick Garland.
Yes, there is. And 2024 is getting saucier every moment. Forget about President Biden. Nikki Haley's warning voters the election is all about making sure his sidekick, Kamala Harris, does not slip through a back door and make herself at home in the Oval Office to assume the residency.
And talk about border insecurity, a closer look at how thousands and thousands of illegals make up a new community inside.
You are articulating what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
The truth.
You guys are our voice.
We watch every morning while getting ready for work.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Gina, reunited. Feels so good.
It does.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're back. I tell you what, we were apart, what, was it 4 days?
Yeah, probably.
We could sit and talk for 10 hours. We could not stop. Our chatty Cathy, Jason kept having to shut us up to get us to work this morning because we have a lot to catch up on.
We do, we do. And I missed you, and I missed all of you. I missed your beautiful faces.
And she was the most beautiful girl at her reunion, just as I said.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
So
I've seen pictures, and it looks amazing. Miranda, we're so happy to have you back.
Honored to be back.
Let's bring in David Brody out in Washington, D.C. David, I missed you, too, even though it was only 24 hours, or not even 20. I guess it was 22 hours, but I still missed you.
Gina, I always miss you. And Miranda, my goodness, welcome back. We're so excited to have you back. Seriously, we really did miss you. And the viewers missed you. You were alive and well in the Getter chat. Everybody's saying, where's Miranda? Where's Miranda? So we're excited you're back. And we'd love to know more about it. I think I'll quiz you, and you can play Merrick Garland and say, I don't know anything about my trip.
I don't recall.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
I can't talk about an ongoing investigation, David. I'm really sorry about that.
I love it. Well, we're glad you're back. And Terrance Bates, you haven't gone anywhere. And that's a good thing for all of America and American Sunrise. Hello, Terrance Bates with the headlines in Denver.
David, Dr. G, Randy Pooh, welcome back. Good to see each and every one of you as well. As Congress considers defunding the FBI, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland says such a move would be catastrophic. But critics say the real catastrophe during Garland's testimony before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday was his responses, or lack thereof, to basic questions. The contentious hearing focused on everything from prosecutions and investigations of January 6 defendants to the DOJ's investigation and prosecution of President Trump, to the botched plea agreement and now new investigation into first son Hunter Biden. At every turn, Republican committee members gave the Attorney General a piece of their mind.
Hunter Biden associate Devin Archer told us that Hunter sold the appearance of access to then Vice President Biden. Are you confident he has stopped?
I'm going to say again that all these matters are within the purview of Mr. Weiss. I have not interfered with them, and I do not.
If you were confident that he had stopped, you could.
And I do not intend to interfere with him.
Garland's testimony Wednesday was the first time he faced off with members of Congress in person since his department made historic filings history by filing charges against former President Donald Trump and the son of sitting President Joe Biden. He was also called to task over what many see as a lax investigation into first son Hunter Biden as a Republican-led House moves forward with an impeachment inquiry against President Biden. Hunter is at the center of the allegations against the president. Happening today, the U.S. House will vote on a defense spending bill. That's the word from House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Following a 2.5-hour meeting with his fellow Republicans on Wednesday, McCarthy also believes lawmakers are, quote, very close to agreeing on a short-term stopgap measure that would avert a government shutdown on September 30th. The Speaker says Republicans will also begin advancing other full-scale appropriation bills. All of this as the national debt just passed $33 trillion, and again, a government shutdown is looming. Progress on funding the government remains slow after 5 Republicans held their votes hostage earlier this week in order to get assurances that spending for the upcoming fiscal year won't exceed 2022 levels, which is $120 billion less than the agreement McCarthy and President Biden reached back in May. However, the California Republican admits 3 of the 5 still have not changed their minds. And finally, amid threats from China, Russia, and North Korea, the United States has a brand new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff this morning. U.S. Air Force General Charles Q. Brown will replace General Mark Milley after winning confirmation in the Senate Wednesday, despite Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville holding up hundreds of nominations over the Pentagon's abortion policy. General Milley's resignation is effective September 30th, making General Brown's confirmation that much more urgent. The impending resignation forced Democrat Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to force a vote. General Brown flew through the voting process 83-11. While Senator Tuberville is maintaining his hold on other nominees, he didn't object to Wednesday's vote and wants all votes on future nominees to be held individually. That's a quick check of your headlines. Now let's get you back to Gina, Randy, Pooh, and of course David. Good morning.
Oh, you're so sweet. I love it too. Look, he wore burgundy.
I know.
And Ron Burgundy.
It looks like you guys coordinated. And in fact, I'm thinking maybe you did. Excuse me, my IFB fell out and I'm trying to put it back in.
That's okay.
IFB is the hearing thing. That's how we hear what's going on in the control room for those of you out there in TV land. I'm thinking you guys coordinated.
Dr. Gina can't hear me.
I've got you now.
Oh, she can hear me.
We thought you were doing a Biden impression or something. It almost sounded like that.
Yeah, that's right. He's the one that whispers. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, today's Bible verse is from Jesus Calling, of course. It says, "My voice you shall hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning I will direct it to you, and I will look up." That's from Psalm 5:3. And I'll tell you what, I was a lot better about doing my morning Bible studies before I started this morning show.
Oh, but you know what a good reminder, you know. I did it today, you know, did my Bible app plan.
You did all that before work?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I am, God knows and he forgives, thank goodness. There's Jesus and there's grace, because I am so off
You'll
on
get
everything,
back on it. You'll get back on it.
Doing the morning show really threw me. Like I feel like there's a race to the finish line to get here, and I skip past that some days.
That's okay. You're forgiven. You're going to get on.
Thank you, babe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, now to today's top story: reaction to yesterday's historic hearing on Capitol Hill, of course, under attack from GOP lawmakers tasked with finding out the truth about the Biden family. Attorney General Merrick Garland laid bare his thoughts on what he and his Justice Department's responsibilities actually are. Take a listen.
Our job is to pursue justice without fear or favor. Our job is not to do what is politically convenient. Our job is not to take orders from the president, from Congress, or from anyone else about who or what to criminally investigate. As the president himself has said, and I reaffirm today, I am not the president's lawyer. I will add, I am not Congress's prosecutor. The Justice Department works for the American people. Our job is to follow the facts and the law, and that is what we do.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to actually
ideally.
be. Yeah,
Ideally.
we'd like to think that, but House Republicans clashed with the attorney, Merrick Garland, yesterday, accusing him and his Justice Department of weaponization. Of course, the department's work in favor of President Joe Biden and his son, Hunter.
Here are 4 facts that I think are so important. Hunter Biden was put on the board of Burisma, made a lot of money, got paid a lot of money over those years, a couple $1 million. He wasn't qualified. Fact number 2, he wasn't qualified to be on the board of Burisma. Not my words, his words. He said he got on the board because of his last name, the brand, as Devin Archer said when he was under oath and we deposed him. Fact number 3, Burisma executives told Hunter Biden, we're under pressure, we need help. Fact number 4, Joe Biden goes to Ukraine, leverages our tax money American people's tax money to get the prosecutor fired who was applying the pressure.
Jim Jordan telling us as it is, joining us once again to help sort through the Attorney General's testimony and for what is aiming to be an historic week in Capitol Hill is former Georgia Congressman Bob Barr. Congressman Barr was one of the House managers during the Clinton impeachment, and he joins us live now. Good to see you again, sir.
Morning.
So, Congressman, Merrick Garland didn't seem the least bit interested in the facts that Jim Jordan was clearly laying out to him.
No, and that's not going to change. My concern here is that this was supposed to have been a hearing on oversight of the Justice Department. I happen to think that the Republicans, once they got through perhaps one round of questioning about Hunter Biden, should have moved on to any number of very important issues that they really should have grilled the Attorney General on. The Civil Rights Division, immigration, corruption with U.S. funds going to Ukraine, big tech monopolies. There are so many issues that they could have gone into while they had the Attorney General of the United States there, and they didn't because they simply repeated over and over and over again the same questions, which they knew he was not going to answer.
That
is really insightful, and I don't think that I even understood that they could have gone into all that and didn't. Congressman Garland, though, became really flustered when he was asked about whether he spoke to the FBI about the Hunter Biden investigation. Should we take that to mean that he probably did?
I don't think that he really has been involved in it, and if you're not involved in it, you really are involved in it.
Right.
He's not providing any oversight, which the department and the Attorney General on a high-profile case like this should be doing. So the fact that he can simply say, perhaps very honestly, hey, I'm not involved in this, don't worry about it, I'm not going to be able to answer your questions, is a way for the department to simply do whatever they want or not to do whatever they want. But again, that's not going to change. The Republicans made that point. They then failed to move on to these other issues that I think are very important with regard to the Department of Justice and how it operates.
Well, we are up against the clock, but real quickly, going back to that point, you said the questions that we could have been asking. What would be the one question that you would have asked that you think Merrick Garland would have been forced to actually give a response other than, I can't talk about an ongoing investigation or I don't recall?
I'd like to know what the relationship is, for example, between the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice and the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC, which seems to have its dirty fingers in a lot of these issues, such as the school board issues, such as the right to life issues, such as going after Catholics. The SPLC has tremendous, apparently, influence with the Department of Justice through the Civil Rights Division, which is headed by an extremely left-wing lawyer. I'd like to know more about that and really put the Attorney General on the hot seat for that.
Yeah. One more quick question. What about this excuse that an ongoing investigation is the reason he can't answer anything? It seems like that's the excuse every time he appears, and the investigations get dragged out for years, and the whole thing works really well for people who are up to sinister things.
That's not going to change. That is the department's opposition, and the only way to change that is for the Republicans to hold on to the House, regain a majority in the Senate, and stop funding some of these divisions and some of these programs until they can really use the appropriations power by having both houses of Congress. That's not going to change.
Congressman Bob Barr, thank you so much for joining us again here on American Sunrise. Please come back.
My pleasure.
Up next, the 2024 race is starting to get a little nasty. Some of the GOP presidential hopefuls are doing their best to safeguard the country against Kamala Harris' presidency, assuming that Biden won't make it through a new term. The latest details ahead as American Sunrise continues.
17 minutes past the hour, top of the hour. So good to see each and every one of you. Welcome back to American Sunrise. C'est moi, Terrance Bates. Terrance Bates here at your service. As the race for the White House heats up, so is the rhetoric on both sides of the political aisle. Check out this headline. Here it is. The specter of a Kamala Harris presidency roils the 2024 race for the White House. Former South Carolina governor and Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley warning voters that the coming election is about making sure that Joe Biden's vice president Kamala Harris does not slip through a back door and into the presidency. Haley has been sounding the alarm on the campaign stump on social media as well as on television, saying that Biden, who is 80 years old, will not last a full second four-year term and is poised to hand over the keys to the Oval Office to Harris.
They're running it so they can put Kamala in. No one in their right mind thinks that Joe Biden is going to serve out this next term. I think he's going to run this race because they think he can win, and I think Kamala Harris is going in. And that should send a chill up everyone's spine.
So, David, is what Nikki Haley is pushing here political posturing a real and valid concern? What's going on here?
Well, I think it's a real and valid concern. Here's the thing. First of all, I don't think Joe Biden's going to end up running in 2024, first of all. So I don't even think this is going to happen. Having said that, if Biden does run, and as I close my eyes and say, God forbid he wins, then Kamala Harris, no doubt, would be the next president of the United States, because there's no way Biden is lasting another 4 years. So I think it's a real possibility if Biden wins in 2024. Gina, Miranda, is that your name? Miranda, you've been gone for so long. I don't know. Yeah, Miranda, that's your name. What do you all think? What do you all think?
You know, I don't know what to think of it. I mean, here, I look at the posturing that I'm seeing from the mainstream media, and for them to be as critical as they have been, and the poll numbers coming out, I think it's a definite possibility that they're looking for a replacement. And so I think you may be right, David. I don't think I was thinking that prior to this, but in the last coming months, you see more and more people turning away from Biden. I think that they're going to have no choice. And then with his son being under severe scrutiny, and then we have the impeachment inquiry happening, I think they're definitely going to have backup.
But Dr. G, isn't President Biden winning a second term a big if?
Yes, it's a big if. Right now, Donald Trump beats him in every single poll. And in fact, some of the others, I think, in the race beat him in some polls, too. So yeah, they need to be really careful here. The interesting thing to me is whenever you see a change, right, a sea change. And the sea change that I've seen are media headlines. And if you just look at, you and I, we read media headlines all day long. And if you just look at headlines, there has been a distinct shift in saying things like, will Joe Biden survive a second term? Is Joe Biden going to die? Like literally headlines like that from what we would consider mainstream or corporate media. That tells me that the Democrats also are very concerned about this. I don't think there's a Democrat out there that wants 2 terms of Kamala Harris, who can barely conduct a Venn diagram.
Yeah, I was going to say that's all she can really do at this point.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we're going to move on. Up next, a view from the Hill. Senator Joni Ernst will be in to weigh on not only Kamala Harris, but also Joe Biden, Merrick Garland on the stand, the race for the White House. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Stick around.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
And welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. Some developing news this morning from the House. Kevin McCarthy is trying to figure it all out. Take a look at this headline. The House GOP leaders are floating a new plan to avert a government shutdown. According to reports, House Republican leaders floated a new proposal to avert a government shutdown Wednesday evening that appeared to win over some hardline GOP detractors. It is the first sign of progress, I guess if you call it that, in weeks. Here's what the latest plan would involve. First of all, it would set the current government spending levels at $1.471 trillion a year. It would attach Republicans' border security legislation to the continuing resolution, the CR, the stopgap. It also would be an agreement to set full-year spending levels at $1.526 trillion for the 12 appropriation bills that Congress has to pass, and then a bipartisan commission to address the U.S. national debt. Oh my gosh, a bipartisan commission. Oy gewalt. We'll have more on that with Senator Joni Ernst in a moment. First, AMAC headline sponsored. Oh, wait, headline sponsored by AMAC. I'll get it right.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
David, piggybacking on the story you just shared, President Trump is weighing in on the ongoing budget negotiations on Capitol Hill as well. During a campaign stop in Iowa Wednesday, the 45th president encouraging Republicans on Capitol Hill to use their majority and power of the purse to deal with the country's illegal immigration crisis.
Cannot wait until 2025 to begin stopping Biden's nightmare as a president and on the border. That's why I'm calling on congressional Republicans to ban Joe Biden from using a single taxpayer dollar to release or resettle illegal aliens into the United States effective September 30th.
September 30th, by the way, is the day the current fiscal year ends. Mr. Trump also making headlines saying if elected, he'll shift resources from federal law enforcement and instead send thousands of overseas-based troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. The 2024 presidential candidate also says he'll deny all communists and Marxists entry to the country once he returns to the White House. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be on Capitol Hill today to meet with congressional leaders and to ask for more money to support his country's war with Russia. His visit comes as House Republicans are fighting over whether to fund our own government or allow it to fall into a shutdown. As the clock ticks down, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has already made up her mind about the path forward for Ukraine.
And I'm standing my ground really hard with my voting card, saying I will not vote for any funding, whether it's an appropriations bill, a CR, or a standalone bill that funds this war in Ukraine, because it's nothing but corruption, and Zelensky has Joe Biden basically on the hook.
Today's visit to Capitol Hill comes on the heels of Zelensky calling on the United Nations to remove Russia's veto power on the UN Security Council. He also asked the body to adopt Ukraine's 10-point peace plan, which Russia has rejected. That's a quick check of your headlines brought to you by AMAC. Now, let's get back to David.
Well, thanks, Terrance. The swamp in D.C., it's getting funky. Actually, it's always been funky. We've got a potential government shutdown. We have a Biden impeachment inquiry happening now in the House. And, of course, Merrick Garland on the Hill yesterday to testify. So let's get more on all of that and a whole lot more with Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa. Senator Ernst, great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with Merrick Garland, Senator. I know it was over in the House, but I'm sure you have a few thoughts. Evasive seems to be an understatement in terms of the non-answers we were getting yesterday from Merrick Garland.
Yes, absolutely. And we saw AG Merrick Garland over in the House, and his testimony was very evasive. That dude did not want to answer any questions about Hunter Biden or the president or any funny business that has gone on there. I wonder sometimes what the path forward is there. I hope that our House Republicans can dig out all the great information that they need. And it's an important step. However, the AG was really wasting their time because he wouldn't answer those very important questions. So there's a lot left to discover, a lot more that needs to come out on the table. And darn, I hope those House Republicans can really get after it.
Speaking on real quick on those House Republicans, they are going with a Biden impeachment inquiry. The view in the Senate, obviously, probably different, definitely with the Democrats and maybe some Republicans. What's your view about what the House is doing over there and how you view it over in the Senate?
Yeah, the House is leading on this, as they should, with any impeachment. It does start in the House. But I do hear from Iowans about this issue, and they are really concerned about, again, the funny business that has gone on between Hunter Biden, his father, when he was the vice president of the United States, and a number of foreign countries and foreign entities. So I am completely okay with them moving forward with an impeachment inquiry. And again, we will discover, I think, through their questioning, through the information that they are able to gather through that inquiry. And the problem becomes if they do go into an impeachment proceedings, if it does proceed onto the Senate, you know full well Chuck Schumer is just going to poo-poo that and shove it to the side. Unfortunately, it probably won't go anywhere in the Senate, but we will have the necessary information ferreted out by the House Republicans.
Let me continue to talk about Biden here on border security. You have been at the leading edge of this, calling him to account on this. I mean, there's $260 million literally put up for auction, border materials. This is insane. You have sent a letter about this out to others. Tell us more about that and how you plan to hold the Biden administration accountable on this issue.
I am so upset about this. If you just look in the last week, about every single day, we've seen over 9,000 illegal immigrants cross into our country. And we have unused materials that were purchased during the Trump administration that are out there lying in the desert. And so what Joe Biden has decided to do is not erect the wall, which would help secure our nation, but instead auction it off, sell it for pennies on the dollar. Taxpayers have already purchased these materials. We should be using them. Now, I do have a plan that would allow states to apply for those materials. And if they want to continue building the wall, we would just hand the materials over to them. Joe Biden doesn't like that plan. He's trying to get rid of those materials before we can move forward on that. But again, we have so many illegal migrants coming into the country. It is affecting our communities, even in middle America, good old Iowa. We are seeing the impact of those migrants and most certainly the impact of fentanyl in our communities. It's devastating.
I mean, Senator Ernst, Joe Biden is making Jimmy Carter look pretty good right now. I'm wondering what your take is on the Biden presidency, and he's now running in 2024. Does he need to get out of the race? There's a lot of folks, even Democrats, privately, and I'm assuming soon to be publicly, will call for that. What's your view on that?
Yes, I don't see how President Biden will make it even through this campaign season heading into next year. And so I am one of those that I've always thought that perhaps we end up with a different Democratic candidate. I don't see how the president makes it through another 4-year term. He's just simply not capable of that. And you're right. There are a lot of Democrats here on the Hill, while they're not coming out publicly, they most certainly behind the scenes are expressing discomfort about having Joe Biden as their candidate.
Yeah, for sure. Before we let you go, we want you to talk about the federal workforce and telehealth and what's going on. This has been very important to you. We have abandoned buildings in D.C. because of a telework situation at the federal level. Tell us more about your plans to try to figure that out.
Yes, I've got the Drain the Swamp package. It's a series of bills that I've been working on for a number of years now. One, moving our federal agencies out of D.C. and out into areas where they're more accountable to the people. Number two, take a look at the telework situation. There is a 25% occupancy rate with most of our federal agencies here in D.C. Why are we spending taxpayer dollars leasing those buildings if federal workers are not going to come back to work? Another issue that we have is that with the telework, we don't know if they're actually working. And many of them are getting paid much higher than they should based on DC salary when they've actually moved into lower cost of living areas. A lot of things that we need to be working on. And unfortunately, the taxpayers are always on the hook for these activities.
Welcome to the swamp. Senator Joni Ernst, great to have you here on American Sunrise. Thanks so very much. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. All right. When we come back, New York is mourning. The nation is mourning. What a tragic story. The death of a 1-year-old from a fentanyl overdose that was stored on top of play mats at a daycare center. The crime and the outrage ahead on American Sunrise.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. Gina, along with Miranda Khan here in the West Palm Beach studios. New Yorkers are furious about the city's migrant overload, and this week, the death of a 1-year-old from fentanyl overdose put many over the edge. And it's not a fentanyl overdose per se, it's just fentanyl. It is fentanyl happening, right? Poisoning, yes. Fentanyl was stored on top of a playmat at a Bronx daycare where a baby fell ill and later died, officials say. The infant wasn't the only one to suffer. 3 other children at that daycare were sick also from apparent opioid exposure. Now the owner of the center has been hit with federal charges alleging the drugs were stored on top of children's playmats. Large quantities of fentanyl along with packaging and distribution equipment were found in a hallway closet there at the center, and this comes as a study last week showed that deaths related to fentanyl are up 50%. And it's no coincidence that it happened in New York City, the new illegal alien hub of North America. When you really think about it, that's what it is. And yeah, I have so many friends who've lost children to fentanyl. And most of them say that they don't want it to be called an overdose. People are sensitive to that because children didn't mean to take it.
Right.
They were poisoned, right? A lot of times just by touching a pill that has it in it, or by just like this, where they're just exposed to it, or by taking something that they think is mundane, oftentimes even as an aspirin. Can be laced. I've told my children, I don't care if it's a cough drop, I don't care if it's chewing gum, you don't take anything from anyone ever. You have to be so careful.
Well, I mean, you can't even pick something up off the sidewalk because you're concerned that it could be laced. Up 50%. That's startling. And we were just in the Villages. We met a woman who had lost, remember, her son and grandson to fentanyl. Real problem. Well, everyone knows that the next medical crisis is just around the corner, whether it comes in the form of a pandemic or something much more mundane like a tick bite. You and your family need to be prepared, and that's where the Wellness Company comes in. The Wellness Company, they have great doctors like Dr. Peter McCullough. We have him on all the time because he's so reputable and he tells the truth.
Well, we need doctors out there telling the truth, and the Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust, and their new medical emergency kit, gold standard when it comes to keeping you and your family safe and healthy.
So be ready for anything. This medical emergency kit contains just an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, very important, and Z-Pak. The medical emergency kit provides a guidebook as well to help aid you in the safe use of all these life-saving medications.
And you can rest assured knowing that you have on hand emergency precautions like antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics. They'll help you and your families be safe from whatever the globalists throw at us next. So go to twc.health/RAV today and order. That's TWC, the Wellness Center, twc.health/RAV. Use the promo code RAV and you'll save 10%. Terrance, you out there? There you are, looking so dapper today, matching up with, what do you call her again?
Burgundy. We were saying like Ron Burgundy, like his
No, but he has another name for you. Randy Poo?
Randy Poo.
Randy Poo.
I'm reading my teleprompter here. They just put some jarble in there. Dr. G and Miranda, that story you shared was heartbreaking, but this next story also going to blow your socks off. Here's the headline. Inside Colony Ridge, the fastest growing development in the U.S. is a magnet for illegal migrants. Experts say the growing community of illegal immigrants in suburban Houston invites cartel activity and is a national security issue. Experts even link increased encounters at the border to the expansion of that settlement. In fact, as we continue this story, a Texas land developer established a sprawling settlement allegedly without asking for paperwork to purchase lots of property. Thousands of people believed to be in the country illegally have settled there, raising concerns that the community could become a strategic asset for cartels. At 60 square miles, Colony Ridge is already nearly the size of Washington, D.C. Its population estimated to be anywhere between 50 and 75,000 people. Plus, the area is growing rapidly thanks to a marketing plan targeted at Texas's Hispanic population. Joining us now to add some perspective to Colony Ridge concerns is Texas Land Commissioner Dr. Don Buckingham. Dr. Buckingham, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. Great to be on with you today.
It's great to have you, not to make light of the situation, but it seems this development redefines the idea of sanctuary city.
That's exactly right. I mean, imagine, as you said, an area about the size of D.C., tens of thousands of illegal migrants there, a definite stronghold. We are seeing record numbers coming across our border, and we've seen a significant shift in that now the majority of the people that are coming are single adults. That is a very different population from the children, and I think we have a good reason to be very concerned.
Do you expect that community to result in even more illegal border crossings, since it basically is marketing to illegals?
That's exactly right. It's the lures that bring people here, right? It's the Biden administration extending the sanctuary for the Venezuelan citizens at the demands of New York. It's the inconsistent promises. It's the catch and release. The numbers coming across the border are so significant that now Border Patrol is just letting them out on the street even more than they were before because they simply can't handle the numbers. This is unacceptable. And, you know, the story earlier with the fentanyl and the tragic poisonings of our children from that, it is all streaming across the border. We have captured enough fentanyl in the last year to kill every man, woman, and child in the United States. And so these border policies are dangerous to everyone in our country.
The outrage is now reactionary. Is there anything that could have been done to stop this in the early stages and be more proactive?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we saw border crossings under Trump going down to just a trickle. It is clearly the Biden policies that are driving this massive surge, this massive influx of fentanyl. And let's take a step back, too, and realize that no free person walks across the border. They are all owned by the cartels, by our most violent gangs. These are dangerous people who are going to be put in dangerous positions. Basically, we're seeing the most massive increase in slavery that this world has ever seen. It is completely unacceptable.
But Dr. Buckingham, more specifically, is there anything that could have been done to stop this development so it's not another reason that people can use to try to come into this country illegally?
Well, we are looking at every possibility to stop the development. When you're outside of a city limit and only in the county, sometimes there's less jurisdiction there, but we are currently looking into that. I'm actually headed to that part of the state tomorrow, so I will be checking on it personally, and we're going to look at every opportunity to, one, halt its development, and then two, see what kind of tools that our local officials need to be sure that this doesn't happen again.
Hopefully it won't happen anywhere else either. Dr. Buckingham, we appreciate you being here with us.
Have a great day.
All right, let's switch things up a little bit now and get over to David, who also has another very interesting interview. Always good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, Terrance. Not only an interesting interview, but an important subject, just like what you were discussing there, Terrance. We're talking about police recruitment and retention. Bad news. We need a few good men, and we're just not getting them. Take a look at this headline out of Minneapolis. This is about the Minneapolis Police Department there. There are staffing shortages at the Minneapolis police staff. The levels hit historic lows because of recruitment and retention. And really, that's the situation nationwide, as overall interest in the profession has plummeted amid heightened public scrutiny following a series of high-profile police killings. So is there anything we can do to turn the tide? Joining us now from the National Police Association is Betsy Brantiff-Smith. Betsy, thanks for being here. What in the world is going on? How did we get here, Betsy?
Well, for the last 3 years, we have had the vilification and the demonization of the American law enforcement officer. And of course, Minneapolis was the epicenter of that. So now we have a 78% decrease in, getting quality candidates, a 40% decrease in just applicants. We can't get anybody to even apply to be a cop. And of course, we have a great deal of difficulty getting qualified candidates. You know, Minneapolis PD is experiencing the worst exodus that they've had in 40 years, but it's not just Minneapolis. San Francisco PD is incredibly short-staffed. So is Portland, Seattle, Austin, Texas. The first police department to be defunded, of course, is absolutely short-staffed. NYPD is set to be below 9,000 officers for the first time. And we're seeing this incredible, putting out of resources as overtime goes through the roof. And all of these defund the police mayors are now saying, hey, where's the police? We need to do something as crime continues to skyrocket in 2023.
I'm assuming that we saw this increase even more after those BLM riots and some of the stuff that the left was pulling a couple of years ago. Do you see clearly there's a direct correlation here?
There is absolutely a direct correlation. In fact, the Journal of Urban Economics just published a study that talks about how the Black Lives Matter movement since 2014 is not only affecting police staffing, it's affecting homicide in this country. Thousands of additional homicides, largely of people that BLM professes to try to uplift. Look, we as the American people have got to uplift the American law enforcement officer, and we've got to tell our political leaders, stop demonizing the cops, refund their budgets, and do everything we can to bring people to this profession.
I've got about 30 seconds or so, Betsy, but help me out here, because this isn't just a funding issue. I mean, we've got to lift these officers up, right? I mean, there's got to be a way to change the conversation in America writ large, if you will, or at least in police districts all over the country, districts all over the country, to make sure our police are not vilified. How do we lift these officers up?
Well, that's why the National Police Association exists. You know, right now we have a mobile billboard traveling the country that asks people to defend the police, not defund them. Look, we've done polling that shows that most people support the American law enforcement officer, but we as the American public have to fight that false narrative that you hear from some media outlets, from politicians, from activists and groups like Black Lives Matter. It's up to every one of us to stand up for the American law enforcement officer. And one of the best ways you can do that is at the ballot box in November.
Betsy Brantner-Smith, really appreciate your time. Thanks so very much for being here on American Sunrise. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, stay awake, not woke. We're doing this every day because it's everywhere. In today's edition, our nation's founding fathers get completely disrespected. We're right back with the ridiculousness as American Sunrise continues.
You know what that means. This is one of my favorite segments. It's time for Stay Awake, Not Woke, sponsored by our good friends over at Beer Vet Coffee, beervet.com. Use that promo code RAP and you're going to save yourself 10%. All right, so in 2021, Woke New York removed a statue of Thomas Jefferson from City Hall because, well, he was a slaveholder. But that wasn't enough for their cancel cultural cravings. So look at this headline. New York City Council is advancing a bid that could yank monuments honoring George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Christopher Columbus. So the new bill will require the removal of any artwork from the city that depicts a historical figure who, quote, owned enslaved persons or directly benefited economically from slavery. If any monument of this type is spared, then the city will be required to install a so-called explanation plaque, basically, about the misdeeds of the figure. So plaques will also be installed on the sidewalks. You can't make this up. Adjacent to any schools named after a person who needs this criteria. This is real news. I really can't believe this. Of all the things going on,
right? This is what
especially in New York City.
About.
I mean, which has been inundated with illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
This is their biggest concern, and this is where our resources are going to. So, David, if you had a plaque, I can't even talk. If you had a graph or a plaque,
a glass plaque,
a graph plaque, yeah. What would be your explanatory plaque? What would it say on your statue? We're gonna have fun with this one.
Well, I think it would just say "Radical for Jesus." Deal with it. Good night. I'm in the grave, and I'm now actually in heaven. But can I just quickly say something about this New York thing? Because this is personal to me. Obviously, I'm from New York.
Yeah.
And where does it stop? Because they're talking about statues. Well, there's the George Washington Bridge. So what are you going to do? You're going to rename that the George Washington was a bad guy bridge? I mean, what are you going to do? Columbus Circle in New York. Now the Indigenous People Circle. I mean, seriously, where does this end? Where does this end, Terrance? Anyhow.
No, agreed on that point. I think New York has many other fish to fry than this, even though I am a supporter of historical context, period, for any sort of monument. Having said that, my dash would simply be a Rudyard Kipling quote, "Walk with kings, yet still had the common man's touch."
I love that, but I think we were supposed to say what they would write about us. Like, for example, mine was, what I've always told my kids is just put on my tombstone, "She died trying." And I'm not even kidding, because I feel like that's all my life I've just been trying to fix this government, and it seems to get worse and worse. So I'm not sure I'm having a great effect. But anyway, I think it could be "She died trying," but she was, because in my phone, once I got called a bunch of names on social media, I decided I'd just put them all in a title for myself. So in my phone, when my phone refers to me, like if I talk to Siri, she'll say, "Yes, racist, homophobic, sexist, bigot. What can I do for you today?" And so that's what, so mine might say "She died trying," but she was a racist, homophobic, sexist, bigot. Because I think it's the but part of the explanation of the things we did wrong in our life, right? That we were. Well, thanks. But maybe David and Terrance haven't done anything
Miranda, save
wrong.
yourself.
Yes.
How about you?
Save yourself.
I'm just going to say fake news deplorable. I'm proud of it. How's
Nice.
that?
I like that too.
What would yours say? Let us know. You can always share it with us on social media. Up next, our moment of faith at American Sunrise. We'll be right back. I like yours.
Thanks. I like yours too.
And welcome back to American Sunrise, Washington, D.C. And if Merrick Garland was giving analysis of the city, he would not recall anything about Washington. All right, time now for our moment of faith. Take a look at this headline, which I kind of actually don't agree with. I agree with some of it, but look at this. The religious right's grip on the GOP is weakening. That's working to Trump's advantage. Now, President Trump has made a number of statements in recent months that might have driven a wedge between his campaign and some religious voters. The truth is, Trump's real base of support, according to this article, comes from a rising group in the GOP whose impact has been largely unnoticed. It's Republicans who hardly ever darken the door of a church. Let's discuss this a little bit more with Pastor Jackson Lohmeyer back on the show. Pastor, great to have you here. You are the head of Pastors for Trump. I'm not sure if I buy that. I mean, I think there's some truth to that. Obviously, he's broadened out the party for sure. But I think he politically lives and dies with evangelicals. I think he politically lives and dies with pro-life Catholics. I think in 2016, if you look at the numbers, in 2016, he won the Catholic vote by 7 percentage points. In 2020, it was split. So he won 52 to 45% in 2016 and pretty much 50 to 49 in 2020. So he lost traction among some Catholic voters. What's your view of Donald Trump and how this dynamic plays out?
Well, I would just say the GOP is built upon the evangelical and Catholic vote. You know, the largest voting bloc in America is the evangelical voting bloc. And so I think the headline is a little off there. And as you know this, 2016, 2020, 8 out of 10 evangelicals supported President Trump, and he has not lost that base whatsoever because, you know, you look at what he did and look at what was accomplished during his first term. I mean, nobody moved the Christian agenda more than President Donald Trump. You got from the overturning of Roe v. Wade, moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I mean, the list of accomplishments goes on and on and on. And people will say all the time, how can you, as a Christian, support Donald Trump? And my statement is, how could I not support Donald Trump? Look what he did for the Christian agenda in just 4 years.
I've got limited time here, but tell me a little bit about this event that's kind of coming under some criticism that you had at your church. You had Laura Trump, some others there, and now they want to come after you maybe on a 501c3 violation. It's so ridiculous. Tell us a little bit about that, Pastor.
Oh, you know, isn't it interesting that black Democratic churches, they're allowed to have and host any political candidate they'd like, but a conservative church brings in Laura Trump, Kash Patel, and some other people. Then all of a sudden we're breaking the law, according to the Tulsa World. That's nonsense. You know, people like to use the phrase separation of church and state or the Johnson Amendment, and we broke neither of those. So it's really interesting how the media tries to spin those things. But I'll tell you, David, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the house was packed when Laura Trump was there. She put on the phone President Trump and the place erupted. And so it's an incredible thing to see. And I'm glad to be able to lead Pastors for Trump. Yep. And I would encourage people, you know, if they want to join our monthly prayer calls, then go to pastorsfortrump.com.
You got that website in at the deadline. Thank you so much, Pastor Lohmeyer. I appreciate it. All right. We've got a lot more coming up on American Sunrise, a whole nother hour, and we're back in a moment.
Just ahead on this second hour of American Sunrise, a day after Garland took the stand, did his testimony help quell Republicans who think his Department of Justice was in the tank for Biden, or did it throw flames on the fire? Famed attorney Alan Dershowitz is here with analysis.
An illegal alien released by the Biden administration has been arrested for a Texas border town murder, yet the numbers of illegals continue to swell. We'll have a report.
The Republican National Committee's second GOP primary debate is next Wednesday. At least 7 candidates are planning to attend, while President Trump will spend the time speaking to union workers in Detroit. Will anyone even watch? We're going to take a look.
And the new Senate dress code, or lack thereof, instigated by high school hoodie-wearing Senator John Fetterman, has more and more people hot under the collar this morning. Find out who else is now furious. Those stories and more as American Sunrise starts right now. We've got your back as you start your day.
Articulating what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
Y'all tell the truth.
You guys are our voice.
We watch every morning while getting ready for work.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of American Sunrise. I'm Dr. Gina.
And I'm Miranda Khan, back with your beautiful faces once again, coming to you live from West Palm Beach. Little under the weather, was dealing with some allergies, but
literal weather.
Yeah, literal weather, but
probably climate change.
Yes, of course it is. Everything is, climate
Blame
change.
Trump.
Blame Trump. There we go.
All right, let's bring in David Brody. He's in Washington D.C. Are you getting a pretty fall there now, David?
Oh, it's actually beautiful. It really is. And it was. I said the other week, I think I was at a fall festival this past weekend. I literally fell at the fall festival. Literally, I fell. I tripped up the stairs.
Fall festival. Wow, David.
Yeah. So leave it to me. I'm fine, by the way. Don't you worry. The show must go on.
We're glad you're okay.
Terrance Bates. Terrance Bates. The headlines always go on in your world. And you were there in Denver with all of the headlines. Terrance, take it away, sir. Don't fall.
All right, David, I know you didn't miss it, but if you in TV land happened to miss it, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland's testimony before the House Judiciary Committee went a lot like this.
Have you had personal contact with anyone at FBI headquarters about the Hunter Biden investigation?
I don't recollect the answer to that question.
Really? The nation's top cop can't remember his conversations with the nation's top law enforcement agency? Well, that's one of many issues Republicans on the committee grilled Garland on Wednesday. However, the investigation into Hunter Biden and his alleged influence peddling scheme was front and center.
Every witness we've talked to said this thing was slow walked, and we know why. They slow walked it long enough to let the statute of limitations run so they wouldn't have to get into Burisma. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Will the gentleman yield?
No, I'm asking Mr. Garland the question.
I think I've tried to make clear that I don't know the specifics of the investigation. Much of what you are describing occurred during the Trump administration, during a Justice Department appointed by President Trump.
No, it didn't. This is 4.5 years, this investigation. We're talking about the last few years. Your statement was just this year, March 1st, to Senator Grassley.
Garland was even threatened with contempt of Congress, as several Republicans on the committee said that his responses or lack thereof amounted to just that. And speaking of Hunter Biden, the 53-year-old is expected to answer to those felony gun charges in a Wilmington, Delaware courthouse on October 3rd. The 3-count indictment against the first son is for allegedly lying on a form to acquire a gun back in 2018 and for being an illegal drug user in possession of a gun. His lawyers say he plans to plead not guilty. He'll do so in person, though, after the judge denied his request to appear virtually, saying that an in-person hearing would promote, quote, the public's confidence that the defendant is being treated consistently with other defendants. Hunter Biden's likely trial will set the stage for a sitting president's child facing a criminal trial while his father campaigns for re-election. That's a quick check of your headlines. Now, let's get back to Dr. G and David.
Terrance, thanks. Merrick Garland, for a really smart guy, had quite a few memory lapses yesterday. We want to talk more about that. Merrick Garland really came under fire from Republicans, specifically on this two-tiered system of justice that we've heard so much about. And to get more on that, we're joined by famed attorney Alan Dershowitz, author of the book Get Trump. Alan, thanks for being here. What did you make of Garland's testimony yesterday on the Hill?
I think there was a failure to ask him the hard question. The hard question was, why don't you appoint a special counsel to investigate President Biden and his possible connections to Burisma and Ukraine? There's enough smoke there, enough probable cause there to appoint a neutral, objective, beyond any kind of dispute person to look into the president of the United States. He says, I'm not the president's lawyer, but he's the president's loyal cabinet member whose goal is to try to get the president reelected. It's very hard to separate out the role of political advisor to the president on legal matters, which he is, and chief law enforcement officer. That's why, although I've generally been critical of special counsel, certainly this is a case that warrants it. And if I were President Biden and I were innocent, I would be the one calling for a special counsel. I would be the one saying, there's so much smoke out there. There's so many allegations. There are so many unanswered questions. If I were Biden, I'd say we can't trust the Republican-controlled House to do this, and we can't trust the courts to do this. We have to have a special counsel who is beyond reproach looking into that. That's the question I would have asked. Other than that, Garland does not seem to be involved in the day-to-day aspects of these criminal cases, and that's probably the right thing, although it doesn't make for good testimony.
But isn't that his job, Mr. Dershowitz?
No, his job is to supervise and oversee special counsel. But when special counsel are appointed, and there have been now several special counsel, one on Hunter Biden, the other on President Biden himself, but limited only to the classified material, actually the Attorney General is supposed to stay out of the day-to-day nitty-gritty of the investigation and is supposed to wait until there's a report sent to him by special counsel. So I was not surprised that he was, surprisingly to many people, not aware of the details of the investigation. But I do think the hardest question is why he has not appointed a special counsel to investigate President Biden's connections to Ukraine and all the allegations that grow out of the prior investigation, including the fact that the statute of limitations was allowed to lapse on issues that might have brought a connection between the president and the president's son. Again, he's presumed innocent. Yeah. And I like Joe Biden. I've known him for 40 years. I hope he's innocent. But I want to see, as part of the American people want to see, what the truth is. I want to get every stone uncovered, everything looked at. And the only person who can do that with credibility is a really independent, really neutral special counsel.
He goes up there, Alan, and he says that there's not, in essence, a two-tiered system of justice. And I know he has to say that. But, have a little credibility at the end of the day, yeah. Alan. At some point, come in with a reality version of what's really going on. It's not only that he's tone deaf. We know he's not tone deaf. He's smarter than that. Give the American people, forget Congress, but give the American people some credit here, Alan.
Look, I agree there is a two-tiered system. I agree that anything having to do with Donald Trump today cannot get justice. Look, they're going after all of his lawyers. When the 65 Project announced they would go after any lawyer who defended Trump, I announced that I would defend any such lawyer pro bono. What do you think happened? Project 65 filed a bar charge against me.
Wow.
So there is a two-tiered system of justice, and some judges are participating in that two-tiered system of justice, and we have to make sure that justice for all, the Bible says, it instructs judges only two things. One, don't take bribes, and the other, lo takir panim, don't recognize faces, wear a blindfold. You cannot have a two-tier system of justice, one for Democrats, one for Republicans, one for pro-Trump people, one for anti-Trump people. I'm caught in the middle because I'm not a pro-Trump person, but I've defended Donald Trump, so I am coming under the targeting of the 65 Project and others who perceive me as pro-Trump. But there is definitely a two-tier system, and I think that Garland is smart enough to see that, and that's part of his job, to make sure that everybody in the United States understands that the justice system still wears its blindfold, and that judges and prosecutors don't peek beneath the blindfold to see which party or which candidate the person supports.
Mr. Dershowitz, the DOJ has been dragging out the investigation into Hunter Biden for so long, for years. So then they can always use that excuse that it's an ongoing investigation. This really gets on the nerves of people watching it and just wanting information.
It gets on my nerves. It's nonsense. They're very selective in what they produce and what they don't produce. Look, it was a terrible mistake for Garland to appoint Weiss to that position. The rules and regulations of the department say it has to be somebody outside the department. I understand that Weiss asked for it, and Garland should have said, sorry, I can't do it. I can have you cooperate with the new independent counsel, but special counsel, but the regulations require me to go outside, and I'm going to pick somebody outside, and then the two of you can work together. But Garland didn't do that, and he never has explained why he didn't follow his own regulations.
Just a quick follow-up on that, Mr. Dershowitz. Is there any chance we will have any answers before the next election?
Oh, yeah, that's the problem. We're going to have some convictions of Donald Trump because he's being tried in districts where you can't get a fair trial. And then these convictions will be reversed after the election. That's the strategy. The strategy is down and dirty, unlawful convictions to influence the election. And then we don't care if they're reversed after the election, because by that time it will have had the intended impact on the election. So, yeah, I think we'll see some convictions. New York, they can definitely convict a ham sandwich if his name is Trump.
Yeah.
I think the same thing is true in Fulton County. We'll see how quickly they move. But the goal is to move quickly. The judge in the District of Columbia made a terrible mistake when she talks about the right of the government to a speedy trial. Read the Constitution. It's the right of the defendant to a speedy trial. The defendant also has the right to prepare for a trial adequately. And if you have 12 million pages of discovery, no lawyer can prepare for a trial within several months. This trial definitely ought to be put off until after the election.
Alan Dershowitz, thanks for the Banana Republic analysis. Appreciate it. It's so sad to see. Appreciate it. All right. When we come back, someone that has more questions from Merrick Garland, and he did just that on Capitol Hill yesterday, Andy Biggs, Congressman Andy Biggs, on our show today. Plus the Drain the Swamp segment coming up as well. Next, we're back in a moment.
breaking news from Real America's Voice.
We are back with breaking news involving Rupert Murdoch. He is stepping down as chairman of Fox Corporation and Fox News. All of this came out Thursday in a statement. He wrote here, "For my entire professional career, I have been engaged daily with news and ideas, and that will not change." Murdoch wrote in a memo to employees, "But the time is right for me to take on different roles, knowing that we have truly talented teams and a passionate, principled leader in Lachlan, who will become sole chairman of both companies." Lachlan, by the way, is the 92-year-old son. That would be Rupert Murdoch's son. So Lachlan Murdoch will now take over the operations of Fox News and Fox News Corp. This is, of course, breaking news. We'll continue to update this breaking story for you throughout the day. All right, let's get to draining the swamp now.
This segment, of course, sponsored by good friends over at Siamud. Siamud.com is the website to check out, and use that promo code RAV1776 and you're going to save yourself 15% off. They are just a all-around rural American patriotic apparel company. Again, everything's made in America. They support the same values that you do, and they have more than just shirts. I mean, they have incredible knives, drinkware, swimwear, jewelry. So if you want to support businesses and want to make sure that your money is going towards people and their businesses that share the same values as you, this is one of those companies to go and check out. That's right. Here is the swamp story. Ready? Give me your tired, your poor, your hurdled masses, your fentanyl dealers, your cold-blooded killers. Yeah. Thanks to the swamp, our nation is just filled by headlines like this one. Check it out. An illegal alien released by the Biden administration has been arrested for a Texas border town murder. The suspect, a 64-year-old Peruvian national, was arrested by Border Patrol in May after crossing the Rio Grande, but he was released to a non-government shelter to pursue an asylum claim. And now he's in custody for suspicion of actually killing a man in Houston earlier this week. Law enforcement said the house where the victim was discovered has been used in connection with human trafficking. All of these crimes, all of the lives lost, 100% of crimes caused by illegal aliens can be stopped by just doing one thing: enforcing the law at the border. This doesn't need to happen.
You know, you see those military-age men trotting across our border, giving the finger to our American journalists like our own Ben Bergquam. These are not your tired. These are not your poor. These are not your huddled masses, right? This is a military invasion. Make no mistake about it. And when you just look at the story we've covered today, almost every single story has had something to do with illegals. The fentanyl, the crime, the economy, all the rest of it. It's uncanny that we are tolerating this, that we are sitting idly by. There are starting to be protests, though, in New York, and we'll be watching those.
Thank goodness, because, I mean, like we've said, there's been 1,000% increase in Asian nationals, 50% increase in fentanyl. No coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, coming up, Congressman Andy Biggs will be here after he took on Merrick Garland on Capitol Hill. He was on fire yesterday. All of that and so much more coming up here on American Sunrise. Stay with us.
Time check, 24 minutes past the top of the hour. Interest rates will stay the same for the time being, but the Federal Reserve is also warning that rates will stay higher for longer.
We're prepared to raise rates further if appropriate, and we intend to hold policy at a restrictive level until we're confident that inflation is moving down sustainably toward our objective.
Fed Chairman Jerome Powell says that there will likely be one more rate hike before the end of this year and fewer cuts than previously predicted for next year. If the Fed does raise rates again this year, it would mark the 12th increase since the policy tightening began in March of last year. All right, let's get you back to Dr. Gina as we want to talk about the kids. T. Bates loves the kids. Dr. Gina,
Yeah, well, thanks, Terrance. Earlier this week, we brought you the tragic story of a child who died of a fentanyl overdose earlier this morning, rather. Time's flying.
Yeah, really.
But this was in New York because the drug had touched a playmat, right, where this child attended. This is infuriating if you think about it. How did this happen? The thought is absolutely horrendous, and it's every parent's worst nightmare. If nothing else, it should give every parent watching pause for thought about homeschooling your own children. Heidi St. John of MomStrongInternational.com is a leading voice and strong advocate of homeschooling and so many other things, and the new author of Mom Strong 365. That's her book. You got to get that too. Heidi has 7 children and 3 grandchildren with a 4th on the way. The St. John's children range in age from tween to adult, and they've homeschooled the kids all the way through high school with 5 graduates now. Congratulations, Heidi. Here with her reaction to the New York tragedy and what you can do to avoid these sorts of scenarios is Heidi St. John. Heidi, welcome. Heidi, I tell you what, I have been following your work for a long time on Instagram. You're one of the most, I just want to say, candid voices out there. I've watched you have total crying breakdowns in your car when something struck you. I've watched you rejoice over victories that you share with the conservative Christian and homeschooling community. This time, though, in our political world, right, seems particularly hard, I think, for Christian moms to even grasp where we are. And for those moms out there, Heidi, who maybe think they can't afford to homeschool their children, maybe they're not home, maybe they work, a morning show and an evening show like I do right now. Give them tips on how they can do it in spite of that.
Well, you and I have spoken about this before, right? This idea that homeschooling, really all the things that you guys have been talking about on the show all morning, these are advertisements for homeschooling, right? Yes. We need to get our kids out of this broken system that is injuring our children, body, soul, mind, and spirit. They're going to tell your kids now they can be a narwhal whale on Friday if they want to be. And as we're watching the landscape in America really just crumbling around us, I love to ask mothers, if you knew that there was a virus with a 99.9% mortality rate in our schools, what would you do? Well, we know what we would do because we just took our kids out of the schools for a virus with a 1% mortality rate. We just took our kids out of the schools. We shuttered the entire system. And I'm here to tell you that there is a virus in our schools with a 99.9% spiritual mortality rate. It is injuring our children. There's a reason why the radical left is taking direct aim at children. We need to ask ourselves, why are drag queens targeting children? Why do we have fentanyl in our schools and our daycares? It's because children are the future of this country and we need to protect them. And so to me, that's the issue. The issue is not, do I work full time? The issue is, how can I protect my child? What is the best way to do it? And I have worked full time homeschooling our children for a long, long time. It can be done. Is it difficult? Yes. But everything that's worth doing in this life is difficult. Nothing that's worth doing is easy. And so I like to tell moms, look in the mirror and ask yourself, what are my children worth? Because that is the question. And so once we realize that the high price is to be paid for our children, then as mothers, that is our job, right? And so I like to tell moms, homeschooling only needs to take a couple of hours a day. If you've got little ones, I mean, we've been conditioned to believe in this country that schooling takes, from 7 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's when the bus comes to get the kids, and that's when it drops them off again. But the reality is the education piece of it takes about an hour and a half, and the rest is just crowd management.
Yeah.
And so if you
some of these curricula out there. I have one right now. My son's at home right now homeschooling, sitting at my dining room table homeschooling, and he does it all online through a specific program where the teachers instruct. It's a Christian university. So there are ways, and I guess I just want that encouragement out there for moms.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question, and I'm curious. So, President Trump has been pretty outspoken, I should say, when it comes to school choice, but he's gone as far as he did just recently, speaking in Iowa, saying that he would completely abolish the Department of Education and throw it back to the states. What is your reaction to that, and do you think it's likely going to happen?
Well, he's 100% right. The Department of Education is a joke. I mean, we're sending our money to these people, and their agenda is being driven by one of the most wicked, evil, corrupt unions ever to exist in the United States, the National Educators Association. These are the people that are setting the agenda for the public schools. We don't need the Department of Education. Education is best observed and managed at the local level. So President Trump is 100% right about this. If you would have asked 10 years ago, I think people would have pushed back. But I don't think people are pushing back anymore because they see what is happening. The National Educators Association and the Department of Education are an abysmal failure, and there's no reason why the federal government should fund any of it.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you say that because, I grew up in public schools. My mom was a public school educator, but I actually just got back in town from Kansas visiting some of my family there, and one of my mentors who taught in school recently retired, and he said it was just the time to go. He said things were never the same after the pandemic.
Yeah. Heidi, one quick last question, and we only have about a minute left. I remember one of my first homeschool mentors, her name is Chris Whiteman. She said to me, you can do anything if you focus on one thing, and that is holding tight to your children's hearts. Quickly, can you respond to that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. At the end of the day, we want our children to leave our homes as adults with a good sense of who they are. They need to know who they are. They need to know that they have been created in the image of their creator and that they have infinite worth before the Lord. Yeah. That is the message. And I think we focus too much on what we think the outcome should be, and we're not focusing on the hearts of our children. And the left in this nation has seen that, and they're taking full advantage of it. And so as parents, that is our primary role, to teach our children that they are loved by the one who made them and that they have a purpose for being here.
That's perfect. Perfect.
Love that.
And I love that you gave that quote, anything in life worth doing is not easy. I tell my children that 100 times a day, Heidi. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for the new book. Join Heidi at Mom Strong International. It's an online ministry where women come together for weekly video-led Bible studies, scripture writing, online and in real life fellowship. And the new book, Mom Strong 365, everybody needs it. All right, now let me throw this over to T for some economic headlines, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
The markets are now open and all the indices in the red right now, all of them down just under a point. Hopefully that will change throughout the day. In the meantime, get ready to pay even more money for your health insurance next year. That's the word from healthcare consultants who are forecasting the largest increase in health insurance costs in a decade. Employer healthcare costs are expected to spike by between 5.4 and 8.5%. Medical inflation, soaring demand for costly weight loss drugs, and wider availability of high-priced gene therapies is what benefit consultants Mercer, AON, and Willis Towers Watson blame for the increase. The good news is one survey finds that more than 2/3 of employers either will not plan or don't plan to shift any cost increase to their staff, or they will pass on minimal increases next year. Well, there's an organization that backs Obamacare, gun control, and extreme transgender policies that endanger our kids. They claim to be bipartisan, but last year, 95% of their donations went to Democrats. AARP doesn't represent the values of American seniors. Fortunately, there is a conservative alternative, which is AMAC. AMAC is the Association of Mature American Citizens, and it proudly champions Americans' right to free speech, religious liberty, and the Second Amendment. AMAC defends parents' rights to protect their children and is fighting to restore America's election integrity. With more than 2 million members nationwide, AMAC is a pro-faith, pro-family, and pro-freedom organization. I'm actually a member of AMAC and proud to be so, and I encourage you to join as well. So let's send AARP a strong message that they don't represent conservative seniors. Join AMAC today at amac.us/sunrise. That's amac.us/SUNRISE. I know you probably could have spelled that yourself, but I figured I would help anyway. Coming up, President Trump is breaking all the rules, skipping the debates, and handing out free pizzas while campaigning in Iowa. Up next, the latest poll numbers to see if it's working. Plus, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs joins us live now that he's had a night to sleep on what he heard from Attorney General Merrick Garland. Stick around.
It's Southern at its finest. It's red, white, and blue. You gotta get out and try it. Red State Barbecue. Red State Barbecue.
Oh, you know I had some barbecue, girl, when I was in Kansas City.
And
amazing. Yeah, amazing. Almost as amazing as Red State Barbecue. Of course, this segment is sponsored by RedStateBarbecue.com. Use that promo code RAV10 and save yourself 10%. Your taste buds are going to thank you for it.
Yeah, you know, I think that the Texas spicy tastes a lot like Kansas City barbecue.
Okay, I have to try that one.
I tried it in celebration of you being awesome at your reunion this weekend. I had a little the Texas spice on some ribs was perfect. But they have all kinds of flavors. You've got the classic flavors, Memphis sweet, Texas spicy. They have North Carolina, South Carolina. They need a Kansas.
I think so.
City one.
Why not?
Yeah. They've got Alabama and Kentucky style. RedStateBarbecue.com. That's where you go. Promo code RAV10. That'll give you 10% off.
All righty. So now for our story. So the second GOP primary debate, obviously, is this coming Wednesday, and at least 7 candidates are planning to attend, while President Trump will spend the time speaking to union workers in Detroit, Michigan. Of course, everyone has something to say about this, right? So here's Mike Pence's take on this. You ready?
Hardly wait.
I think it's a missed opportunity for Donald Trump, and I think it's a missed opportunity for Republican voters. Look, this country's in a lot of trouble. Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad, and I think the former president, just like all the rest of us vying for the Republican nomination, owe it to the American people to express what our agenda will be for turning this country around.
Sorry, Mike.
I think it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, this is what my consultants told me to say. Like that's
that's really
the truth is, Mike, that Trump can afford to sit this one out. You can't. The latest YouGov poll shows Donald Trump at 59%. That's 46% ahead of the next leading GOP candidate, Ron DeSantis, who sits at 13%.
Wow. The poll also shows that Trump is strong among registered voters between the ages of 45 and 64. Leading Biden by 15 points. And he's up 12 points on Biden on the issue of being fit to serve as president. Probably no big shocker there for most people, whether you're on the left, right, or somewhere in between. Right, Terrance?
Absolutely. This is going to continue to be a talker. But another talker this morning is the fact that Merrick Garland, faced down the Republican inquiry on the Justice Department's handling of Hunter Biden and other issues on Wednesday, vowing to, quote, not be intimidated. As we bring in David Brody here as well, one of the many members on the House Judiciary Committee who had a bone to pick with the Attorney General was Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Listen.
You don't know what happened in the Hunter Biden case because that's somebody else is doing it. But you can be sure of the timing of when all this took place. That is one of the biggest oddities of your testimony today. I yield back to the gentleman from Colorado.
Yeah, he's got plenty of information on the details of the timing, but when it comes to a few other things, all of a sudden he goes, what? I don't know a thing. Congressman Andy Biggs joining us now on American Sunrise. Congressman, what did you make of Merrick Garland's testimony, or can you not recall any of it because it wasn't all that thrilling because he had no clue what he wanted to say?
Yeah, I can't remember. Somebody else was in charge of it, I think, that kind of thing. I was so disgusted. I think it went as we thought it would go. I mean, he was going to dodge and weave and try to push everything off. And this notion that somebody else was in charge, and yet that person, David Weiss, right, who's now the special counsel, when he was investigating Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland said that he had ultimate authority. Now, what ultimate authority means is nobody's constraining you, and yet he had to go. David Weiss was required to go to Merrick Garland for permission to get cooperation to prosecute from other jurisdictions. That never even took place. That's what we call conditional authority, not ultimate authority. And so it was just one more piece of evidence of his inconsistency. But I'll tell you what, he showed very clearly that this is a two-tiered justice, not even a two-tiered, this is a multi-tiered system, and different people get different justice depending on what their personal beliefs is, what their religious beliefs is, what their political beliefs are, and and how they conform to his.
Representative Biggs, you know me, I typically ease into the interview, but I'm sorry, I can't hold my tongue on this one. Let me just get straight to brass tacks. There was talk about potentially holding Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress because he just wasn't answering. Is that potentially going to happen? Or is this even what we saw here, this performance, is this more fuel for the fire to impeach him, period?
Well, I don't think that there's the will to hold him in contempt. I wish there was the will to impeach him. I think he's one of the most dangerous characters in the Biden administration because he controls the entire Department of Justice. Even the FBI answers to the Attorney General. So for him to say he didn't even talk to anybody from the FBI about the Hunter Biden investigation, that shows you. I mean, that's almost impossible to believe. And so Terrance, he probably needs to be impeached. I'm not sure that my colleagues necessarily agree with you or I.
Let me ask you a little bit about the shutdown situation that's looming. You are obviously Congressman Biggs, or at least you're called one of the holdouts. You're the holdout, or at least one of them. What do you make of what's happening now? You obviously don't trust Kevin McCarthy. They now have this new plan that's been floated out that they want to at least get a CR passed. Do you expect to vote for that CR at this point? What's your view?
No. I think this is the same crap sandwich with a different wrapper around it, if you want the truth. So, look, we have a border crisis. We have a spending crisis. We have a structural deficit of $2 trillion. We spend another $1 trillion or so in interest, something like that. Get this. They don't want to even cut $100 billion in spending. So when you do a CR, I just ask you the same words that former President Kennedy said: if not now, when? If not us, who? We're gonna. 7 to 8, 10 years ago, they said they had a 10-year plan or 5-year plan to balance the budget. Then it was 7 years. Then it was 10 years. Now, last year, they said they had a 20-year plan. None of those work because you never even get through the first year of what needs to be done. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. We should be doing individual bills. We should get those done. We should have got them done. And I'm sorry to say, even if you call it a shutdown, it is just a pause in spending. The Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, they all keep getting funded. If you don't get your paycheck as a federal employee, you get back pay. It's all made up. It's time for us now. If we're not going to take a stand when we're in an economic crisis, by the way, this will also extend the inflationary pressure, because you continue to devalue your currency instead of trying to solve the budgetary crisis.
Representative Biggs, since we're talking about out-of-control spending, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be on Capitol Hill today. Are you planning to meet with him? But more importantly, what is your thought? Where is your position on potentially sending even more money to Ukraine?
Well, he's not on my diary for the day, folks. But I don't think we should send him any more money. I mean, look, they don't even know where all the money is that we've already sent him. It's gone out. We don't know where all the material is. We don't know what's happening there. But and here's another thing. I'm on that, for instance, that Department of Defense spending bill that everybody's up in arms about. It includes more funding for Ukraine in there. I just find it interesting that we've got 7,000 people crossed into Eagle Pass, Texas yesterday, and in the meantime, we're going to spend money to secure, ostensibly to help a corrupt Ukrainian regime stop the corrupt Russian regime. Let's take care of home first. Can we do that? Can we just take care of home?
I think there's a phrase for that. America first. Go ahead, David.
That's right. 30 seconds or so. What about Kevin McCarthy? Do you think there'll be some sort of vote potentially against him? I know Matt Gaetz has talked about that. What do you think in terms of trying to get him out of the speakership?
Well, at some point that may happen. I don't think it will be necessary. I don't think it'll be successful necessarily, but I think that somebody's going to make that motion, and there'll be a number of a small plurality of Republicans that vote to vacate the chair. But I don't think that's going to remove him.
Congressman Bates, listen to me. I just made you a congressman, Terrance Bates. Congressman Biggs.
Terrance, there are times that I'm willing to change, brother.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to stay right where I am, Congressman Biggs, and talk to you and let you do all the hard work. That's why you make the big bucks. Good to talk to you. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you again. All right, that was Anchor Biggs and Congressman Bates here on American Sunrise. We're back in a moment. We're going to spill some tea. I'm going to try to collect my thoughts, and John Fetterman's going to try to dress better. He's got some snazzy attire. We're back in a moment.
Let's spill some tea.
Wow.
So embarrassing. I'm sorry. I am so embarrassed that is a senator in our country. That is just mortifying.
We're going to talk more about that image that you wish that you hadn't seen this morning.
Yes, how do you unsee that eye bleach?
You can't. This, of course, sponsored by Artillery Tea Company. ArtilleryTCO.com is a website to check out. And again, use that promo code RAV and you're going to save yourself 10%.
Artillery tea is all natural. It's whole leaf. The tea bags are chemical free even, and each tea bag can be used 2 times.
And here's the great thing. Artillery Tea, it's a family and veteran-owned operated company, and a portion of your purchase actually goes to help veteran and first responder charities. So you can feel good about that while enjoying your tea.
Exactly. ArtilleryTCO.com, promo code RAV for your 10% off. All right, on Tuesday, we told you about the elimination of the Senate dress code instigated by high school hoodie wearing Senator John Fetterman. Well, we weren't the only ones outraged by that policy change. Check out this headline. Republican senators are slamming the relaxed dress code and demanding that Majority Leader Chuck Schumer reverse that change. They said in a letter to Schumer that permitting casual dress on the Senate floor, quote, disrespects the institution. Thank you. But Fetterman said casually, no pun intended, that they're all, quote, losing their minds. Losing their minds. Interesting. Well, his campaign even seized on the attacks and started selling, quote, dress code merch, including a T-shirt that reads John Fetterman's body double. All right. I know I'm not supposed to fall for these conspiracy theories, but why does this guy look so different everywhere he goes? Social media is on fire with Fetterman body double conspiracy memes. David, you know, the great thing about you is every morning you get up, you eat your oatmeal, you put on your Mac Daddy makeup, and you look like David, but not so much with Fetterman. Maybe you could help him out with some makeup to go with his ugly clothes.
No, he needs a tip from Mac Daddy for sure. Here, and now I'm talking in the third person, the Mac Daddy third person vernacular. But here's the thing: I don't know about this body double stuff. All I know is that when I see Fetterman with the mustache now, I feel like he's turned into like a 1970s porn star. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, exactly. Not that I've seen a lot of 1970s porn stars, but just that didn't. Never
Terrance,
mind.
I'm sorry, Terrance, Miranda. I see your faces. Look, I just want to look. Not that I've been doing research for this. Listen, I don't know anything about that, but I grew up in the 70s, so I kind of know. I better stop talking.
We walked right into that one, David.
I'm not trying to. I'm a Christian. I have a card. I have a baptism card.
No. I know. We get what you're saying. I just think that it should be a hoodie that you wear at night because, I mean, the most profound moment that I think I've seen on a debate stage in a long time was him coming out and saying goodnight. And that was his first
as he was greeting everyone.
So, you can wear the hoodie, forget where you are, just cuddle with it and say goodnight. Yeah. I mean, it is an embarrassment
to the body double, everyone. Blame it on the body double. By the way, my name is Clarence, not Terrance. I'm the body double for Terrance Bates. So,
Clarence,
bow chicka bow wow, David Brody. Bow chicka bow wow.
Oh, wow. We really,
Terrance, I'd like to see you, along with the bikini wish, I'd like to see you in a hoodie. I just can't even picture that. So we got to do that sometime. All right, they're telling me I have to take us out.
They're like, please take us out.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, please, no more 1970s porn stars. Sunny Side Up coming up next. Stick around. More American Sunrise right after this. time for our Sunny Side Up series. Today's edition shows us that just because a home doesn't feel like a home, that doesn't mean you can't find a better one. One dog snuck away from an animal shelter 3 times and always found his way to where he belongs, a senior's long-term care facility. Oh my goodness, take a look.
He's very intuitive. He's very intuitive to the fact of the needs of the residents. He can tell when someone is upset. He can tell when residents are getting ready to pass away, where he will check on them frequently. He has also been known to, just stay with them and be with them. He knows when maybe something is just kind of off in the household.
He's just a good all-around friend.
Oh, love him. I watched one yesterday sort of like this, you guys, and it was a little schnauzer of some sort, I think, and he ran away from his dad, his home where he lived, because his mom was in the hospital, and he ran away, and they found him. He wandered in the ER door, it slid open for him, and he made his way to her room and found her, and they were panicked because they knew he was missing. Can you believe that?
That's amazing.
And he'd never been there. They have no idea how he knew where she was. They took her in an ambulance. Just crazy stuff dogs can do.
Yeah. Well,
There's
your
something
dog's
about
therapy
animal
for
videos.
us.
Animal videos are so addictive. Like you watch one, and the next thing you know, 30 minutes have passed, and you've watched all these animal videos. I'm not the only one. I'm glad.
And you know what it is? It's really because it's all about unconditional love. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, animals give you that unconditional love, and sadly, so many humans don't. And so that's what I think it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really nice to see that.
It is. I have Colby here the whole time we're here, and we bring him on the show sometimes on Fridays. Anyway, he's back in the dressing room, the green room, and I'll tell you what. Certain members of our crew, sometimes more than others, will come running back, including Zen once in a while, will come running back and just grab him and walk away with him. Just like, I've got things you just don't even understand. I've got to take this dog and have a little pet therapy. And it really does work. That's the crazy thing. It really diverts you, calms you. And I don't think it's any mistake that dog spelled backwards is God. I just think there's something about the Holy Spirit that dogs transfer or communicate in some way that's really special.
Well, they are pure, and they are the gift that keeps on giving. And I just want to remind everybody, we have some great guests coming up tomorrow on American Sunrise. You don't want to miss it. Matt Schlapp's going to be on. Dinesh D'Souza. Tara Dahl is going to join us, and Jensen Franklin. So star-studded guests there.
And I won't be here. I'm running over to the Lake of the Ozarks in the Midwest, but I'll be back with you all on Monday. War Room with Steve Bannon is next. You all go boldly now and live the truth. Make it a great day.
We'll see your beautiful faces back here tomorrow morning.